Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So I know we have some 90-plus days before the start of the regular season, but today, here on this Wednesday, MJ, it felt like a regular season week. At least a week of Wednesday of that week going into a game on the Sunday.
How did you feel that way? Why?
All right, I'm glad you asked. Very well done there. Helping me continue this analogy that I'm attempting to make here.
Because usually Larry talks on Thursdays.
Yes, but we had practice.
We did have practice.
We had a conference call with a quarterback.
Oh, okay. I see where you're
Carson
going
Palmer
now.
phoned in to talk about his induction into the Cardinals Ring of Honor. And then open locker room, David Johnson spoke. Larry Fitzgerald spoke, which he usually does on Thursdays. But, yeah, today kind of had like the regular season feel.
I guess so. I think we're 95 days.
I know.
I think we're 95 days away from the opener.
Can you tell? I'm like,
No, I'm with you. And I think we're down, or they are down to 4 official workouts.
Correct.
And now the rookies will be here to the end of June. But as for veteran players, they're going to be off about 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, bottom line is we are getting closer. It is starting to pick up a little bit. Yeah, there'll be a little bit of a 6-week, 7-week lull before the start of training camp, but we are inching our way towards the regular season.
Yeah, and it's already June, so it's going to be here before you know it.
Absolutely. All right, here on this Wednesday, let's take off, tell you what's ahead on the show here this afternoon. As I mentioned, Larry Fitzgerald speaks. Not quite a Fitz Friday, but we'll hear from number 11. You'll want to hear his thoughts on Kyler Murray. We've got all the details on Palmer's selection for the Cardinals Ring of Honor. We'll hear from Palmer as well. He spoke about that honor earlier today. We've also got an exclusive interview with center AQ Shipley. It's been a big topic on this show, at least as far as the competition is concerned at the center position. And, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. We'll do that a little bit later on in the show. We do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Love hearing from the Bird Gang. Your questions pertaining to anything and everything involving the Arizona Cardinals. But first things first, the news of the day, and that is right. Cardinals back on the practice field earlier today. OTA number 9. They'll have another one tomorrow and then minicamp next week, which is mandatory Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then that's it. They are done until training camp begins.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, the rookies, a little bit different schedule. They can hold these guys here until possibly, late June, and they'll get some time off. And that's when obviously it's not just on-field stuff or lifting weights in meetings. It's also some life situations, how to handle your money, make sure your circle's small. And so it's a lot of things that go on that we don't talk about that they're going to be in meetings for. So hopefully these guys are taking notes and they're learning, because last thing you want to do is get a game check or whatever and go out and spend it right away.
Yeah. During the 20 minutes that was open to the media earlier today, anything stand out to you? I know it's we get asked that question from fans, and again, it's stretching, it's drills, individual drills, position drills. You can't kind of get too much out of it, but just looking at any specific players or coaches or anything like that.
Well, I mean, where we stand, I always enjoy Chris Akoff,
defensive line coach,
who was here last year behind Don Johnson. So to me, he's a really good technician, and I'm glad they kept him on the staff. So that's always an interesting drill, where it's about pad level, getting explosion as you're getting off the line of scrimmage. And then obviously Kingsbury spends a ton of time with the quarterbacks throwing in the net. So I kind of stay on the one side, and then as practice goes on, which obviously we can't discuss, I'll watch offense and defense 7-on-7. So, but for the most part, I mean, every time I tweet out a video of Kyler Murray, first of all, they send that GIF of "that's my quarterback," T.O., and then everyone will say that guy throws darts, and that's everything we've been able to see since he's been here. The ball comes out quick. Obviously, he's ready in the shotgun. He's already set up to make the throw down the field. So it's just impressive. And I know that nobody's rushing, even though Kingsbury at times will put his arms up to make sure they're making the throws. They're not getting batted down. So, but those are really the two drills I pay attention to when the open portion, and we're allowed to video that stuff. And I try to give the viewers and the listeners out there something to look at, because we can't obviously have our phones out during the portion of practice.
Another one of the drills that I noticed today, I don't know if they've done it before or not, but they had 2 tackling dummies on either side of the quarterbacks, and they were working on QBs rolling out, getting flushed out of the pocket, throwing on the run, and using those tackling dummies as if they were defenders. And then another part, when they brought in the wide receivers to throw just one-on-one quarterback to wide receivers, they were having the quarterback kind of scramble and then the receivers come back towards the ball, because that's what we've been talking about, especially with Murray, the ability to extend plays. Now wide receivers, you've got a route. If all of a sudden you turn back to look for the football, it's not there, and you see the quarterback moving, then you've got to adjust as well and come back towards the ball carrier.
Yeah, I really like that drill, and I think, depending on what formation they're in, what package they're in personnel-wise, let's say hypothetically they're going to go to the left side. He fakes the handoff and he bootlegs out to the right, and that's where guys like Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, that's where they extend plays, and if there's nothing there, they can run, but if they want to make a throw, that's when the receiver will drag to the sideline, so it's an easy throw for the quarterback.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be different watching this offense specifically with a mobile quarterback, because the Cardinals haven't had that in a long time, at least in recent memory, as far as this kind of a mobile quarterback. As we told you at the top of the show, yes, we were treated to Larry Fitzgerald addressing reporters in his customary spot in the locker room. I believe Jim Omohundro pulled the chair around. Did you do that? Set the stage as you typically do during the regular season? Was that that's part of your job description, correct?
I think he actually did it himself this time. I was slacking.
He was ready for it, but yes, Fitz addresses the media. He turns the chair kind of facing out. Everyone huddles around him, and then let the questions rip for about 10 minutes or so.
Well, we all know that he talks on Thursdays, and today was obviously, I was told he's going to talk. He's just, you got to make sure you're at his locker. But Jimmy does a really good job. He has like his backpack, and he moves it out of the way, so you can always tell when Larry's coming or we anticipate he's coming, because Jimmy has the best spot. He's right there. He asks questions, and then obviously Paul Calvisi's getting video and asking questions. So we have it covered for you right here.
Absolutely. And, of course, one of the first questions to Fitz, everyone wants to know his thoughts on Kyler Murray.
First thing that pops out to you is just how intelligent he is. I mean, he knows the system better than we do. I mean, he can get us into any play at any time. And then he has the ultimate weapon and the exit button, and he has, if things break down, I mean, he can get going pretty quickly. And I just think that's going to be a dimension that we haven't had here. I've never played with a quarterback that was that explosive. When things break down, scramble drill, be a lot of explosive plays that will happen with broken down plays. So, I mean, those some of the things we're working on. So, I mean, he's going to add so many different dimensions to what we're doing. Very catchable, accurate, especially on the move. It's very, very catchable ball. Great placement, and like I said, he's got a really good, quiet confidence about him. Not cocky or anything, just very confident in his ability. And I really enjoy him, and I think he's fitting in great with the guys.
I like that description, the ultimate exit button. If the play is not working or something happens, Murray has the ability to go to plan C, D, or E, and then, of course, that's going to be the adjustment for these pass catchers, because that is something that is much different than, as you heard Fitz say, he hasn't played with it. David Johnson hasn't played with that kind of a quarterback, so that's why this right now was all important.
Speaking of David Johnson, he addressed the media today. He was on Good Morning Football this morning, talking about Carson Palmer and obviously fantasy football, but you notice during the open portion, David Johnson does go over where the quarterbacks are. So, and as for Kyler Murray, I mean, you just see it right away. And for Larry to say, who's going into his 16th year, that he has a better grasp of the offense, well, it makes sense. Yeah, obviously, they ran the air raid at Texas Tech, and then what he did at Oklahoma, I think, sky's the limit there for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, I was trying to think going back to last year, because we know that Bradford, they were kind of making sure he was healthy so Rosen would get some of the reps. I mean, the ball comes out completely different. And I thought Josh, in the right system, the right weapons, the right coaching, the right protection, I think he could succeed. Obviously, he's getting a chance in Miami right now, but Murray's just a different animal. He really is. Just the way the ball comes out of his hand, the quick release, the fact that he can get in the open field. And I asked Larry yesterday, I said, can he run a 4.4 or 4.3? He said, he's more of a 4.4 guy. I'm like, when he gets in the game, I don't know how many guys can catch him.
Yeah, especially out in space or getting past that first level of defense.
And that to me, and again, because of the baseball background, we always talk about that pop-up slide, but he also has to learn to run out of bounds, live for another down.
Exactly. Save yourself for the next several weeks, several years of your career.
He's going to get hit at some point. You just hope he doesn't take a ton of hits.
And because Fitz spoke, the natural progression was when Cliff Kingsbury addressed the media, the questions were about Fitz's role. Where's he going to line up, outside, inside? And I think we're going to see him talking about number 11 in several different positions across the line of scrimmage, and that is going to go with every wide receiver. The one thing, though, Kingsbury did say is he believes Fitz will be a big help for Murray as far as catching the football.
He's a security blanket. There's a comfort level there. If you get it close, he's going to make a play for you. Big body in traffic across the middle. You know, for a young QB, you know he's gonna make plays, and that goes a long way.
And know that if you throw the ball with anywhere around Fitz, and as far as the arm radius, he's going to catch it, or he's going to make sure the defender does not catch it.
Yeah, and that was one of the things when Kurt got here. I mean, Kurt would basically throw to a spot. He trusted you to run the right route, and I think Kurt, obviously, when he broke the huddle, he had an idea what he wanted to do. Now, he would go through his progressions, but he expected you to be there when you made your break. I think they're going to move Larry around a little bit because on paper, you look at Christian Kirk, we know he can play on the inside-outside. Andy Isabella, inside-outside. Kevin White and Hakeem Butler are more X-receivers like Larry. So, find ways to get him. And, one of the things Carson had to learn is he doesn't look open, but still throw it to him. And we know that there's tight windows in the NFL, but I will take my chances 10 out of 10, not 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 with Larry coming down with those 50-50 balls or those closed window throws.
And that's easy to say and to tell a young quarterback like Kyler Murray, just throw me the football. I know it looks like I'm covered, just throw it anyway. And that is something that you can only learn from and trust by doing it. And in game situations, starting here in practice, but in game situations. And yeah, the pass might get batted down. You might throw a couple of picks, but you have to develop that. You can't just say, okay, I understand it, I get it, and I'm going to do it. Because you got Drew drop back, your natural instincts is a guy's covered. Okay, I'm going to go to my next read and then down the line. But with Fitz, just take a chance. It's okay.
Yeah, and Larry, I mean, again, he doesn't get the separation, but his craft and the way he's able to catch a ball with a guy draped over him, and he does get some pass interference calls defensively, and so, Larry knows how to work it, and when that ball's in the air, I mean, he always told me when the defensive back, when he's seeing the ball in the air, the defensive back sees his eyes, and now he's got to make a split-second decision. Do I turn around for the ball, or I continue to watch his eyes and see where he catches it? Because at that point, you can kind of try to punch it out, and that was what Charles Tillman did really well for the Bears.
This will be Fitz's 16th season, and he is, as he said it earlier today, day by day, although the belief is, or the hope for Kingsbury is that what this offense can do, not only for the Cardinals, but maybe for Fitzgerald, convinces number 11 to stick around for a few more seasons.
I'm hoping he enjoys the process and enjoys what the offense turns into and how we're playing and can give him a reason to stick around a few more years. But he practices and he plays like he's trying to make the team, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him. With all the accomplishments he has and what he's done, he doesn't need it, and you'd think he's starving out there. So it's impressive to watch.
We always talk and are amazed about the number of one-handed catches he makes in games. Some of his best catches are never seen because they happen in practice.
Yeah. Well, we showed some video there, and he's catching one. One was in the Seattle game, touchdown pass, one hand, and he makes these remarkable catches. So, I mean, for Cliff, who's been around a lot of good players, obviously was in New England, it's a different skill set when you get to the NFL. But you could tell that he's been thoroughly impressed. And he said, listen, Fitz is here. He's showing up. I know it's voluntary, but it makes it important because if you're any of these young receivers, and I'm going to throw Sherfield in there and even a young guy like Farrell Cooper, soak it up. I mean,
Kevin Butler, too.
Kevin Butler. Oh, exactly. Kevin White.
I'm sorry, Kevin White.
Yeah.
Kevin Butler's the kicker.
No, right. But still, I mean, again, I'm stating the obvious, but he's around. He's approachable. He'll ask questions. He'll show you on film maybe how to get off press coverage. So to have a guy like that here is just remarkable. And, whether it's his last year or not, I know that he's going to want to go out on a bang, and hopefully this team can be fighting for a playoff spot come late December.
Yeah, and his numbers are much better than they were last season, and last season they were not good at all, but the entire offense wasn't good at all.
Yeah, and he wants to get to number 2, in certain categories. Obviously, with Jason Witten coming back, they're going to be going back and forth, and it doesn't sound like Witten's going to retire after this year. And I've had this conversation with Larry last year of what else do you have to prove? And he said, basically, I want to get back to the postseason, because that was his coming out party. What he did in that postseason in 2008, against the Eagles, the Falcons, the Panthers, and then obviously in the Super Bowl, that was his coming out party. And that's where he really became that household name nationally.
Yeah, he wants to win. He wants every opportunity at a Super Bowl, not only an appearance, but at that Super Bowl trophy.
And any time a new head coach or any head coach comes in here, the goal is to win the division. That means you're hosting a playoff game. If this team can scratch and claw to get to a wild card, they would sign up for it right now.
Absolutely. All right, still to come on the show here this afternoon, our exclusive conversation with center AQ Shipley, and, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. We'll do that a little bit later on in the show. We continue now, though, with the news that broke yesterday. Former quarterback Carson Palmer will be inducted into the Cardinals Ring of Honor Week 4. It is September 29th with the Seattle Seahawks in town. Before we hear from Palmer, how about we hear from the team president, Michael Bidwell, the phone call that Michael made to Palmer to break the news.
Hey, Carson, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great to see your face.
You too. I've never FaceTime with you. This is a first, huh?
Well, it's a little first, yeah. You ready for another first?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I'm calling is that I would like you to be the 16th member of our Ring of Honor at State Farm Stadium.
Way.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Totally serious. We'd like to put you in
way.
this year. Exactly.
Yes. That's amazing. I am beyond honored.
Well, we're excited to have you.
That is so cool.
It is very cool, and we couldn't think of anybody who we'd like to honor more. You've done so much for the franchise. We think absolutely we're putting you in the Ring of Honor.
I am absolutely honored. It wasn't 5 years was not enough for me. I wish I would have gotten there earlier, as you know. But I am beyond honored, and I can't wait. That's amazing. That's great news.
How relaxed does Palmer look since retirement? Living up in Idaho, not a care in the world, spending time with the family, not getting hit by one defender after another.
Yeah, I think
he's living the life right now.
Yeah, he is, and he should. He put the time in, and I totally agree with him. I wish we would have got him earlier, because after Warner, obviously they were still playing musical chairs at that position. Obviously, they've been trying to find that franchise quarterback, and hopefully they've checked that box, at least on paper they have. Listen, one thing I didn't know about Carson, in Kingsbury had a great quote about, going down to the Senior Bowl, and Carson was this.
We got that story as well.
But anyways, I always mention this, and I don't think it should be put to the side. I never knew how tough he was and what a fierce competitor he was. And he was a prankster in the locker room, but he expected you to do your job on game day. But those are things, because he's from SoCal, he went to USC, he wins the Heisman, he's the first pick in the draft, he's in Cincinnati, he's in Oakland, and you're just wondering, is he extending his career? He's made a ton of money. And then all of a sudden, you get to cover him, weekly, and those injuries. AQ Shipley told us that story. So I was thoroughly impressed covering him, not knowing the person versus the player.
Absolutely, and I think that is important to note, because you get a perception out there about these players, and then all of a sudden they come in and you get firsthand interaction, and they're completely different from what you've been told or what you read, and then that's what you base everything off of, and it's completely different. But Palmer was very accessible and just a joy to cover, because he was accountable, and more times than not took the blame that he was not responsible for, whether it was an interception or a sack and all this stuff. But he put a lot on his shoulders, but he was very successful. His numbers with the Arizona Cardinals, and remember, this Ring of Honor is what a player does with the Cardinals franchise. It's not a career award. It's what this player did for the Cardinals franchise. In those 5 years that he was with the Cardinals from 2013 to 2017, the most successful 5-year run in franchise history. And he put up a number of franchise single season and career marks that makes him worthy to be in the Ring of Honor. The 16th player, 18th overall. But it's not just a numbers honor. This is what a player or person does on and off the field, not just in the community, but how they are treated and how they treat others within the Cardinals community and within this facility. And that plays a huge part as far as your relationship with the Arizona Cardinals and how you leave the franchise. And Palmer, he retired January 2nd, 2018, just a day after Bruce Arians announced his retirement. And all he did, here's a statement. No press conference, no nothing, no conference call, but he left a mark. He put this franchise back on the map.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and just think about it. 10-win season, 11-win season, 13-3, and then they go 7-8-1, they go 8-8. I mean, so we're looking at average Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer in that teams. They average 10 wins per season, and that's pretty remarkable considering the NFC West. We know the Rams are down, San Francisco was down, but Seattle's been to 2 Super Bowls since then. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely settled that position considering that they stole them from the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, 642 winning percentage with the Arizona Cardinals. He has franchise single-season records for passing yards, touchdowns, and passer rating, all of which he did in 2015 when the Cardinals advanced to the NFC Championship game. But he ranks in the top 5 of nearly every statistical category when it comes to quarterbacks. And there was a lull between Kurt Warner and when Carson Palmer arrived, and the revolving door as far as who's going to be under center. And if Kurt Warner put this national spotlight on the Arizona Cardinals, it dropped, it dimmed, it went out. And then Palmer kind of put that back on when he became the quarterback of this franchise.
Yeah, so now we're going to have 3 former quarterbacks, obviously Jim Hart, Kurt Warner, and Carson Palmer. And I love the fact that it's against the Seahawks.
Pete Carroll in town.
And, of course, the Cardinals will play the final game at the Coliseum in Week 17 for the upcoming season. But, yeah, I know that he's been really successful, and the team has up in Seattle. But, obviously, having him at home, him being out there, and I'm looking forward to the ceremony. So, if you had a guess, and I know there's a lot of qualified guys here, who do you think goes in next?
It's a good question. We'll get to that here in a moment. But let's hear from Carson Palmer about this honor and how much it means to him. I think you'll be able to hear it in his voice.
It's something that I think probably every kid that comes in the NFL dreams of and hopes for and wishes for. But there's so few guys that get that opportunity and receive that honor that it really hasn't even sunk in yet. And it might not until – I'm taking my kids to a Cardinals game in 2028 or 2030 when I look up there and see that. It's so hard to fathom and believe that it still just hasn't quite set in. And I don't think I've quite grasped the magnitude of it and how special it truly is.
He was asked initially on the conference call about what this means to him, and then he went off for about 2.45 worth of just calling it a perfect way to end my career, his 5 seasons with the Cardinals. He was welcomed with open arms, his words, when he arrived at this franchise, and he really enjoyed his time here and was treated very well, treated everyone else very well. There was so much success on the field, but what made, I think, the most impression to him was the stuff off the field and how everyone treated him and his family. And look, he will be more appreciated, I think, the longer time goes on because, as far as Cardinal talk, there were a lot of people that were ready for a change at quarterback. You either liked Palmer or you didn't, and you can't argue the fact that he won ball games. And winning is the only thing when it comes to the NFL and any professional sport.
Especially that position.
At the end of the day, what's the bottom line? You win on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that quarterbacks are judged on wins and losses. I mean, it's a team game. If all 11 guys are doing their job, then you're going to be successful. If one guy's not doing your job. And so when you look at it, I mean, he was that typical pocket passer. I mean, you just see the way he would sit in the pocket and go through his progressions and throw that ball down the field. And then we just showed some video of him at midfield against the Saints and just how tall he is over Drew Brees.
Yeah, well, he was able to take a hit too.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that was two things: competitiveness and toughness. That I did not know that about him.
Well, let's hear from some of his teammates. Larry Fitzgerald in the locker room after practice, certainly happy that Palmer will be inducted here coming up this season.
One of my favorite teammates, and spent a lot of time over the years off the field with him. So I'm elated for him and him and his family. He's deserving. He was the biggest reason we were to have so much success. Over that 5-year stretch. I mean, he was prolific, and I couldn't be happier for him.
You talk about Palmer and what he was able to do here. It was funny to hear him say that he still keeps in touch with a number of his teammates here, but he is, in his words, I'm a Cardinal. He still follows this organization, what they're doing on the field. He was asked about Kyler Murray, and he kind of didn't dismiss it, but he goes, he plays at the positions completely different than I did. I don't know exactly what I can tell him except for the fact that, soak everything in. Whatever you do, it is a learning experience every single play you get. But what Palmer did on the field, and we've talked about it, he was very successful, but he was also willing to help his teammates, put an arm around a guy, a young player. And the one guy that comes to mind, and you want to bring up Smokey, John Brown.
Do you remember that picture?
Yeah.
It was after one of the OTAs or one of the phases of off-season workouts. They both were sitting on the concrete having a conversation. And at some point during the offseason before camp started, he would go to California and stay with Carson and his family, and they would throw and work out. But I'll never forget that still picture of them two sitting on the concrete having the conversation, just looking out at the field.
Well, their lockers were together.
Yeah.
And that's unusual to have a wide receiver over by the quarterbacks.
Well, he was taking him under his wing.
Yeah, and another player that Palmer helped, David Johnson, specifically as a rookie. Here's DJ earlier today.
It's amazing, and I was hoping that he would do that. Now I hope that he gets in the can, and it was, like you've been saying, like I always say, anytime I talk about Carson, he was such a tremendous help for me, not just me, but everyone, on the team. And when I came in as a rookie, man, my head was spinning, trying to learn BA's offense, and BA's over here, cursing me out and stuff. and Carson was the one who always, kept me mellow, kept me even keel, and I'm always gonna be grateful for that.
Those press conferences with Arians his first year with David Johnson, he'd say, well, he left 100 yards on the field. And I'm like, this guy just put up 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 6 passes. And I thought it was hyperbole. Now, last year, obviously, he took responsibility on some of those mental errors. But I always thought it was hyperbole with Arians, and obviously it wasn't.
No, and even Johnson would acknowledge after the fact, I could have done this, and it was a way in which BA would push you to maximize
coach him
your
hard, hug him
potential.
later.
Exactly. And
that was the approach.
Yeah, and Palmer was one of those guys that said, okay, look, this is what you do, this is how you become a professional, and it certainly resonated within that locker room more so than we ever saw or sometimes even knew.
Yeah, like I said, and we had Mark Dalton in here from the Arizona Cardinals maybe during the season when the football life was coming out for Carson Palmer, and that was it the Okie play?
Yes,
when that was in the Green Bay game, right?
Shovel Okie,
yes, and he goes to the sidelines, and Mark was he did it perfectly, like that guy smoking the cigarette. Okay,
calm, cool.
Yeah. And
biggest moment
how about
of the
season? Pass that he threw to Fitz?
Yeah.
And then Fitz obviously stiff-arming guys, and guys couldn't catch him. I mean, that was just great Cardinal football right there.
It was a tremendous run for the Cardinals and for Carson Palmer that season.
Before we get off David Johnson's comment, did you guys notice his hat?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. He wore this morning on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. This is a hat. You remember the bucket challenge? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But whenever you lost the bucket challenge, you had to dress up in these wacky costumes. Well, one of them was Carson Palmer in a unicorn costume. And this is a hat that, according to Palmer, his wife made for his retirement party, and there were a couple of different versions, and this was one of them, and it was put on hats and I believe mugs and different other different items, but collector's item.
Is 2019 the year of the unicorn? Because not only does David Johnson have Carson Palmer wearing a unicorn outfit, Cliff Kingsbury's high school mascot is the Unicorns.
That I did not know.
Wow. Maybe it is the year of the
Almost
unicorn.
dropping
New
some knowledge
Braunfels,
here.
Texas.
There you go.
Wow. Hey, speaking of Kingsbury, did not coach Palmer, but for a short period of time, and I didn't know this until today, they were actually teammates back in the day. I'll let Coach explain.
I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time. I actually came out same year, was at the Senior Bowl, and unfortunately got put on his team. So I remember walking out there first day, and it's like this Greek god just throwing lightning bolts. So this is not going to be a good week for me next to him. Phenomenal talent. I mean, like if God made a quarterback, how it's supposed to look, how he's supposed to throw, how he's supposed to drop, great charisma, personality. I just think the world of him, known him a long time, and I was thrilled to death that he'll be inducted.
Did you not get a lot of reps that week?
I got reps. I wish I wouldn't have. I should have faked an injury because next to him, it did not look pretty. So that was my kind of first introduction to Carson Palmer.
I've heard a lot of descriptions of Carson Palmer. Greek god, I don't think I've come across that one before.
Well, it's just the typical pocket passer, dropping dimes, being able to go through your progressions. And I have to agree with Kingsbury about him being underrated. Because, obviously when you play in Cincinnati.
And underappreciated. Play in Cincinnati, obviously, he was drafted first overall, sat behind John Kitna, and then he goes to the Raiders. And, obviously they had more focus on trying to find a new stadium. And here they are going to be moving to Vegas. So, yeah, and I think he has Hall of Fame numbers, career-wise. Now, not just 5 years with the Cardinals. I think he'll be in the conversation. I don't think he'll be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, but maybe at some point. But he does. The numbers he put up throughout his entire career, remarkable. Absolutely. And although what he wasn't quite successful at a lot of the times was the bucket challenge that he, Drew Stanton, Patrick Peterson are involved in. And it was on Fridays, and you're throwing, I don't know how far it was, but you're throwing footballs into a trash can. And the loser had to wear some wacky costume. And if it was at home, everyone saw it. If it was on the road, you had to wear it on the team plane, too.
Yeah, and then they would obviously have a still photo, and it was hilarious. The thing about the bucket challenge, and this is me maybe overthinking things, when he lost on Friday, I'm like going, is that a good thing for Sunday? Because it was either Stanton, Gabbert, or Patrick Peterson. Now, Peterson had to wear a lot of different outfits. Defensive back, yes. Obviously, they love the challenge and trying to beat the quarterback. But I did have some concern when he lost on a Friday.
Yeah,
and it meant nothing when he stepped on the field.
But you're right. You certainly want your quarterback, your first-team quarterback, not to be losing a challenge. And it's supposed to go in the trash can. Couldn't hit it or get close, but if you're close to a receiver, sometimes you'll be caught, but this had to go inside. So the question to Palmer during this conference call earlier today was whether or not his teammates or his former teammates might challenge him, and if he had to wear a costume for this Ring of Honor halftime ceremony coming up on September 29th.
That's a good question. Man, that would suck. That would be really embarrassing, but I can't turn down a bet. I'm a sucker, and they know I'm a sucker for the bucket drill, so hopefully I'll get a chance to go out there and run around at practice. And if we do the bucket drill and I happen to lose, I always pay up my bets. So who knows? Anything on the table right now.
Do you have any of the old costumes in storage somewhere, the unicorn or the coconut?
Oh, yeah. We've kept most of them. None of them got thrown away. I know that.
And for those watching us here, the picture is Carson Palmer in the coconut bra. Yeah. There were some doozies out there, and you never quite knew. That was the big thing for a couple of seasons on Sunday as the team came out for warm-ups, because it was about a couple of hours before kickoff. Okay, what's this week's costume?
And I think they would go to a certain place to get this stuff on a Friday, whoever lost. So they obviously road trips you leave on a Saturday, Sunday. You have to obviously get in the locker room and put it on. So, but that was one of those things that didn't affect practice at all. It was kind of the open period, so to speak. And like I said, he didn't back down from any challenges.
I was never concerned about Carson losing the quarterback challenge because Larry Fitzgerald has a heck of a better catch radius than a stationary trash can.
That's very true.
But some of those other, the Carson, remember the flamingo? He was a flamingo once.
Mm-hmm.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was one of the first ones, if I recall.
Yeah, but see,
correctly.
if you lost that one, I can't remember who was in it. I don't know if it was Palmer or Drew Stanton, but you couldn't tell who was in it because it was just a complete head-to-toe costume.
Well,
so you got off easy
that's
on
a
that
good thing.
Patrick Peterson, remember he had the was he the dinosaur?
He was a
Yeah, the
dinosaur. He had
dinosaur.
the elf.
Elf.
Oh,
one
the
year.
elf one was All or Nothing famous.
Yes.
And it was a little too revealing for some people's taste. But yeah, that was. Oh, he was Prince one time. Remember? I can't remember where we went. Patrick Peterson dressed up as Prince.
He probably enjoyed that.
I think the request needs to be made for Carson Palmer and his family to come out a couple of days early, come to practice
Sounds
on
like he
Friday,
is.
and have an honorary bucket challenge.
But I think when he steps on the field, he's going to have a nice suit because
yes, at halftime, correct. But make him come out during pregame.
He said
at
he
some
would do
point.
it.
Or how about this? Dress up nicely at halftime.
Yeah.
But he wants to come on pregame and go over to shake hands with Pete Carroll. He's got to be in the outfit.
Well, because again, we don't see the head coach out there 2 hours before kickoff.
Oh, that's part of the.
He can go to the Seahawks locker room and show.
That's true. He could now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one would bat an eye about that.
No, that's his college coach.
But here's a request, Holmes. If we get him on the pregame show, either on the kickoff show or
Cards cover 2 on that Friday.
We want him fully dressed. No costumes during the pregame.
What we'll do
shows.
is we'll set up a bucket in the booth and have Calvisi and Carson go at it for the bucket challenge.
I like that. There you go. That works.
Yeah.
All right, mark it down. We'll work on.
I want to
that
see
here.
Wolf and pastoral football. No.
No,
Did you see Chris Melvin today throw a football?
I did not know.
He does what I do now. When the ball is either overthrown or the receiver is
underhanded.
Yeah, underhanded. Yeah. Because everything's on film out there, and you don't want them to be doing the rewind in a meeting, and then the next time they see you, say you have no athleticism.
Yeah, that's why I'm in my position right now, and that's why you're on the field.
Literally, when the ball comes to the sidelines, I try to avoid it.
Exactly.
Because the first guy that picks it up, you have to throw it back in.
Yeah. Do it underhand. I like that. That's
Yeah,
better.
that-
Or walk it. Run it up. There you go.
Or throw it to the most closest guy to you.
Yeah, there you go. You take it.
Yeah.
Like a hot potato.
Melvin did underhanded today.
Nice.
We love you, Mel.
Congratulations again to Carson Palmer. It's week 4, September 29th, halftime of the Seattle Seahawks game. And, of course, hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that and specifically to Palmer as we get closer to that date. All right, as we continue here on this Wednesday, as we broadcast from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center and doing so in our Bose QC35s, go to Bose.com for more information. A reminder, if you ever miss a show here, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. And, of course, don't forget all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found at azcardinals.com/podcast. Cardinals do a great job as far as all the content for their fans out there. And right now, they're asking for you, the fan out there, for a little help as well. Cardinals do great work in the community. And now, in honor of the 100th season of the NFL, the league is inviting fans to join the Cardinals players, and the other teams in a volunteer initiative called Huddle for 100. The goal of the campaign is for NFL fans to donate 100 million minutes of time to help shape what our communities will look like for the next 100 years. Those fans that do donate will be entered for a chance to win a VIP experience at the Super Bowl in Miami and other great prizes. Go to azcardinals.com/Cardinals Huddle for 100 for more information. A great charity cause for the NFL this season.
Before we go further, I'm sitting here. We're on Facebook today, Facebook Live, so I'm kind of reading through the comments as the show's going on, and somebody chimed in relative to all the challenges we were talking about. David Hope, he says that we should have Wolf and Carson run the 40.
Oh, Carson Palmer better win that.
He would smoke him.
Yeah. Still with like Wolf, 2 ACL injuries.
I don't think Wolf is quick twitched in a while. Yeah.
Now,
it depends what's at the end of the finish line. Never mind.
No, if you gave him like a 15 yards, I still think you can beat him. But Carson, if it was 40, both on the same line, maybe Carson can run backwards and beat Wolf.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't. You have a deeper voice. There you go.
Sorry.
We have the Cardinals broadcasting department Olympics, or our own scouting combine here. No, let's not do that.
A lot of dust would fly off a lot of bodies on that one.
I don't want to deal with the bench press. I can do the 3-cone drill. I would like to do the 40 at some point.
Got to train for a couple of days, otherwise we'd all blow out hamstrings. Just run?
Just stretch.
You got to prepare. Got to get in shape.
Well, I'm not in shape, but It's not like I'm carrying a lot of weight.
That's true.
So I may run like a 5.
All right, a 5 flat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to get a 4.8. That means nothing, no one in the grand scheme of things.
We'll work on that here on Cards.
What are you
going
to
to
run, like a 5.5?
Just stroll, maybe get a 6.5.
You're the size like a skinny tight end.
Just,
I'd run a 4 ever. Sorry, Bertrand Berry, he drops that
just
line all
keep
the time.
running.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Call me when you get there. All right, let's continue here on this show. And as we move on, not only did AQ Shipley, as we talk about the Cardinals center, he started every single ball game in 2016 and 2017, but he only missed a handful of snaps, including, I believe he played every single snap in 2017. But that, of course, all changed last season as he sat out 2018 with a torn ACL. This week, we had a chance to catch up with the veteran center, get an update on his health, and, talk about that competition between him and Mason Cole. Well, let's first start about how you feel, how you look walking off the practice field here. And we're about, 10 months removed from you going down at the red-white practice. How do you feel, and where are you right now physically?
I feel good. I mean, today was really the second day in a year that I've gotten some live kind of feel, and feels good. I mean, I still got some time. It's good that I'm getting the work in now, because now I can kind of get over those hurdles that I have mentally. And it'll be good to get these in this week and next week before training camp to kind of give me some confidence rolling into camp.
So by training camp, you be, I don't want to say full speed, but like participating in everything and ready to go?
Full tilt for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll take care of me a little bit just because I'm getting old now.
Not getting old. You're getting experienced.
Yeah, there you go. 11 years in now, and coming off an injury, I think they're going to kind of ease me back into things. But I think their mindset's going to be full tilt.
Ship, what's it like when you're on IR? It's got to be, because the Cardinals were counting on you. You're going to be the fixture at center. Obviously, they drafted Cole maybe for the future. But what was it like? And I know that sometimes you can't be on the field. Is there a detachment from that, or do you still feel part of the team?
No, I mean, people don't understand the IR side of things. It's the most miserable time, because it's the guys that were talking to you a week before your injury, all of a sudden they start walking by you. And I get it, though. I mean, it's part of the business. You can't help us this year, and that's part of the business. So Coach Wilkes did a good job last year, just kind of telling me, hey, stay around the guys, stay around the team, just make, just so you can feel a part of it, and, try and, give your thoughts or help some of the young guys when you can and do that stuff. But obviously, your main priority and focus is getting your knee right. So I was in here every day rehabbing, and then, if the guys had some questions, they'd stop through the training room and sit in on some meetings, and then, I went to all the home games in a couple of ways.
What was it like just seeing those guys drop like flies, though? And granted, now you got some young guys, some reps, but it was in a difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been that way for the last 3 years here. I mean, I dealt with it for 2 years, and not to the extent that we had last year, obviously, but it never helps the overall continuity of anything when one guy goes down, let alone 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it may be. When you start having more guys on IR than you did, active at the beginning of the season, it starts to kind of, steamroll downhill. And that's what we were at last year. I was happy for the way the guys fought back, in some games, and kept some games tight. But, you're behind the 8 ball whenever you have that many injuries.
Curious, though, maybe a silver lining, because I heard you in the locker room recently talk about maybe this is added maybe a season or two, and then also the fact that I know you just had a brand new daughter when the injury happened. She's now a year old, but
sure.
Extra family time, I mean, can you look at that, both those two, as far as, hey, if there's something bad or something good that can come out of this?
Absolutely. I mean, little shout out, new Ring of Honor member, Carson Palmer. As soon as he heard the news, he was one of the first people to call me. I was on my way home from the stadium after I just got the news. Literally got off the phone with Tom Reed, hey, it's confirmed. Carson calls me maybe 10 minutes later, and he starts just kind of trying to bring me out of a dark spot and talking all the silver linings. One of the main ones was, hey, you get to watch your daughter kind of hit some milestones, and she's going to change every week, and you're going to get to be able to be home and see some of that stuff. So that was definitely cool. And over the first year, I was able to see some things that I obviously wouldn't have been able to.
All right, let's get into it. I asked you before we started this if I need to step in between the two of you.
Let me ask him first before you get there.
All right.
We shouldn't bury the lead, but Carson Palmer going in the Hall of Fame. One thing I didn't know when we started covering, first of all, how tough he is, and he's a competitor, and he's also a prankster. But let's talk about his career here.
It's one of the best I've seen. I mean, I've been around some really good quarterbacks. Got drafted in Pittsburgh, played with Ben Roethlisberger, went to Philadelphia with Michael Vick, went to Indianapolis with Andrew Luck, Joe Flacco in Baltimore, Carson here. Sam Bradford was the number 1 overall, now Kyler, right? So Carson was the toughest I've ever seen in my entire life. I'd watch him play through broken fingers. He breaks his forearm against the Rams. He's sitting in the locker room, like still trying to be a part of it, and you can see the bone like out. You'd watch him take the hits and just get back up. You'd see his chin bleed, and he'd keep playing. One of the best deep ball throwers this game has seen. One of the smartest guys I've ever seen. I never felt like we were ever going to be in a bad protection, because if I missed something, he'd always override it and see it. He's just, I can't say enough good words, and he's one of the best leaders I've ever seen.
All right, now we'll talk about what has happened between the two of you, and we talked about it on the show last week, that media kind of surrounded you after a recent OTA practice, and the question was about the competition between you and Mason Cole, and your response was, I quote, "Is there competition?" And I guess fair enough, but how do you feel about where you stand and the prospects of, I wouldn't say regaining your old position, but being that center week 1?
I feel great about it. I'm taking all the 1 reps right now. I have taken all the 1 reps whenever we do the walkthroughs before I started doing live stuff, and played in close to 100 games. I've started a bunch of games. I've played with some good players, and I think experience brings quite a bit, especially with a young quarterback.
Well, I've talked to you about this several times. You know, every time you're brought in, or when you're first brought in, and there's always someone that, okay, well, let's see if we can't upgrade that position. Evan Boehm comes to mind, and 1, you helped him out, but then 2, he was never able to supplant you. At this point, I mean, is that, hey, I'm here, I've proven myself, or does that bother you at all, that it always seems to be, hey, what's behind door number 2?
No, I get it. I mean, it's an upstairs perspective that, you know, if you don't fit the cookie cutter mold, that, you know, we can always upgrade, right? But what you can't measure someone's heart, you can't measure someone's tenacity, you can't measure someone's physicalness, you can't measure someone's smarts, besides a Wonderlic test, which is debatable in some cases, right? But there isn't a defense I haven't seen at this point. There isn't a stunt I haven't seen. There isn't a coordinator I haven't played against where I know his tendencies. So what you may lack in an inch or 2 in arm length, or what you may lack in an inch or 2 in height, I try and find every way I can to make it a positive for me. For height, I always look at leverage wins, and for my smarts, I always look like if I'm in the right position, no matter what, they still got to go through me.
Now, when it comes to Sean Kugler, we'll talk about what he means, but I've also maintained he's going to play the best 5 guys. And you got to think that Cole and guys like Max Garcia and Corey Cunningham will be up on game day. So, obviously, competition, they want at every position, but we know that obviously some guys, you know, being a first-round pick, they're going to start. And I think you would obviously help a rookie quarterback in that situation. Sean Kugler, let's talk about his coaching style.
He's technique driven. I mean, so that's the one big thing, and I love it actually. It's you know, some things came up about, hey, maybe we should walk through some looks, and his whole thing was like, listen, if we follow our rules and we do our techniques, who cares what they throw at us? And I'm a firm believer in that as well. So he's very technique driven, and any free time we have, whether it be individual or whether it be, you know, in between periods, and we have maybe a special teams period, we're drilling the heck out of some technique, and we're going to get a lot better technique-wise, and technique wins games.
You mentioned Mike Vick. What's it like? And that's my comp for Kyler Murray. Vick was 6'1", about 211. He ran a 4.25. Murray can run a 4.33. What's it like being the center in this offense with a mobile quarterback?
Well, I mean, the one thing is I've played with some mobile ones, and the one nice thing is you don't have to win every time, right? Like if you can lose, and he could still take off and get you 40, right? And so takes a little pressure off us up front, because you know you always have that added attack. And not to mention, you just look at Russell Wilson. Russell's not a running quarterback by any means, but he does pull it once or twice a game, and it keeps everybody honest. So you know, he's gonna present some challenges for the defense in more ways than you can know, just because of his legs, not to mention the fact that he can spin it as well as any quarterback I've been around. So And, this is his type of offense. He's run this type of offense before, and so he feels comfortable in this. And comfort's a big key in any level as well. So, he's got a lot of stuff going for him right now.
All right, before we let you go, I know you're a huge hockey fan. When I ran into you in the locker room, you thought the series was over. We got a series now.
We got a series. It's going to be interesting. The rookie goaltender, Bennington, bounced back, and now we go back to Boston on a 3-game series, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
I know the Penguins aren't in it, and I apologize for that. But
right.
you've enjoyed the entire playoffs and gotten into the podcast and some analysis work as well.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We got a podcast. That's Hockey Talk. You get it on Spotify and iTunes. Just in case.
Nothing wrong with plugging.
Anything else?
No plug. But it's a lot of fun. I think I enjoy playoff hockey because I think they're the most similar athletes to us in terms of toughness, in terms of fighting through injuries, in terms of all the different things, the physicalness that the game brings. And I think it's the one sport where, football, the speed picks up in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Basketball, the speed picks up. The speed is like no other in playoff hockey, I think. And so it's fun as heck to watch. And I look forward to the end of the season because they don't have to report their injuries during the year, but then they do after the season. So then it's interesting to see, this guy played through a broken tibia, this guy played through a broken wrist, this guy played through a broken jaw for the last 6 weeks. For me, it's cool to see. I like to see these guys play through that.
You think the NFL should change theirs? Lower body injury, upper body injury?
I think it would be great, but that's
fantasy
what
people
they
won't be happy.
They wouldn't be. You're right.
Hey Q, we appreciate it. Best of luck this season, and enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Thank you.
By the way, got Game 5 coming up tonight. Our producer, Jim O'Mahundra, was very anxiously awaiting Game 5. The series now.
Tomorrow.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
I thought someone said it was tonight.
No, travel day. They have
that's
one
right.
travel day.
That's right. For my bad.
Hoops
NBA tonight, NHL tomorrow, but series time.
But we have a series now.
Yes.
When I walked through the locker room, he said it was over.
Game 5 is enormous.
A quick note on Shipley. He has now worked with 5 number 1 overall draft picks.
Well, I know 2 off the top. Oh, 3 with Carson.
Kyler Murray, Sam Bradford, Carson Palmer, Andrew Luck, Michael Vick.
But he didn't play a game with Bradford.
Correct.
Did practice
Didn't
with
play
him.
a game
Got hurt
with Michael Vick either.
Oh, okay.
But he has snapped the ball to 5 number 1 overall
And if you
picks.
follow this guy's career, I thought it was a great question where you were basically saying they're always trying to replace you. But he was on the practice squad. He was with B.A. and Harold Goodwin in Indianapolis. He was with them in Pittsburgh. And then obviously when B.A. got the job here, he brought in Goody. And he's the offensive line coach / offensive coordinator. So it wasn't easy for him. And, again, you look at him, and, he could be a bouncer. But, he's got short arms. But, again, over 100 starts, physicality, toughness. He's as tough as nails. And I do think there's something about a veteran center with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and that's something to pay attention to as we get closer to training camp, as we continue here on this Wednesday, broadcasting from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center and doing so in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. A reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. And don't forget, all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found at azcardinals.com/podcasts. And with that, how about we let the Bird Gang sound off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. Appreciate all your questions. We'll begin with Twitter, and user at Bratchbone wants to know, who do you think has more to prove coming into the NFL? Kingsbury or Kyler Murray?
Well, I think it's twofold. Obviously, you hired a guy that's never coached in the NFL. He's never been a head coach in the NFL. Obviously, you hired him because he's innovative when it comes to play calling. And then Kyler Murray, being 5'10", there's a lot of question marks about that. But just watching him in practice, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Yeah, he's going to get some balls batted down. Only had 5 in college, so I hate to cop out. It's not one or two answers here. I guess it's 2 answers. It's not one or the other, I should say. So I would say both if this team's going to be successful in the future.
User at Lobo Jangles wants to know, is the kicking job Zane Gonzalez's to lose? Haven't heard much about him. And to that point, I'll just say you're probably not until you get to training camp when the guys are starting to really kick the ball. Right now, there's kicking being done. It's just not very high pressure, and there probably won't be in training camp, but I think maybe come training camp you'll hear more about that.
Yeah, and again, if this team's in some close games, they're going to need some pressure kicks, and obviously Gonzalez is healthy, and, they obviously want to bring in another leg to help Andy Lee out. You don't want him doing all the punting, even though they do use the jugs machine. So Gonzalez is young. He's got a strong leg. Obviously, it's a great story locally here. Went to Arizona State, got drafted by the Browns, so I think it's his job to lose.
All right, last question via Twitter. User at MBS365 wants to know, and this is right up your alley, MJ, with Patrick Peterson's suspension, is he on the roster for the duration and we basically have a 52-man roster, or is he off and we have a 53-man roster without him? Then for week 7, drop a player and include him.
All right, so what will happen is once the season starts, he'll go on the commissioner's suspended exempt list, and so they will be allowed to have 53 guys on the roster, and then when he comes back, they'll have to make a roster move.
All right, so yes, he is on the roster, just doesn't count.
To the 53, again, he'll be on the commissioner's suspension list.
All right, let's move to Instagram. Is Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2, user at ChrisB17. Which parts of being an NFL quarterback compared to college is the most difficult?
I would say the speed of the game. It's a lot faster. Those windows you were throwing in college, just because, there's hash marks are a lot different. You can load up 3 guys on one side. Next thing you know, he's off to the races. So the speed of the game, and, obviously with Murray's knowledge in this offense, there's going to be a learning curve, but the most part, I would say the speed of the game, because things tighten up and receivers don't get the separation you had in college.
Not maybe the most difficult, but also the different types of blitzes,
yes,
and defensive coverages that you see.
I would say if we didn't have Murray and they were going with Rosen, I would say it's the terminology and just picking up the offense, but I think we're further ahead in that just because of Murray's background.
All right, one more question from Instagram. User at Cardinals Elite wants to know, who gets more tackles this year, Hassan Reddick or Jordan Hicks?
I think Hicks, just because there are times when you're going to see Reddick covering the seam down the field. So I think Hicks is obviously a 3-down backer. As long as those defensive tackles and linemen are doing their job, he should be able to clean up. And Josh Bynes led the team in tackles until he got hurt last year. And then you had guys like, other guys step up. So I would think Hicks would have more opportunities than Reddick would.
And Reddick, according to the Cardinals, had over 100 tackles last season, the most among linebackers. And let's hope that the linebackers have the most tackles and it's not someone in the second.
Yeah, even though you have a lot of guys playing in the box, you want that to come from your front 7. And obviously the job for the D-line is to stop the run, take the quarterback off his spot. So the linebackers will have much more opportunities.
Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. Keep those questions coming. We'll do it again on Friday as we wrap up the week here on Cards Cover 2. And with that, we'll say so long. Special thanks to those behind the scenes. Tim Delaney, Jim Almohandro, Devin Henry, Jackson Sipes, my partner Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Grialou. A busy Wednesday. We'll talk to you on Friday here on Cards Cover 2.